Hey everyone, welcome back to another CDH Lunch and Learn. I'm Darren, the Community and Memberships Coordinator here at Cremorne Digital Hub. Cremorne Digital Hub, if it's your first time with us today, Cremorne Digital Hub is it's a startup hub that is in Cremorne, the heart of Victoria's startup ecosystem. And what we do is we're the connective tissue behind the founders, operators, and the founders. And we aim to help founders scale and drive innovation across the Australian scene. The Lunch and Learn that you're in today is one of the ways that we do that. It's a session where we invite a specialist founder operator with an expertise to present on a topic for an hour. And we aim to always bring value to founders and operators. And today we're really glad to be joined by Tim Jeffries of SmoothOps Consulting. Tim's got some expertise in helping founders and operators work on their workflows, internal infrastructure, their systems, especially on Notion. Tim's also a very long-time Notion user, so obviously he's been very excited with all the developments of Notion AI and all the momentum that's been behind the product as of this year. Mainly today, we're going to be running through the mentality behind how to actually build your Notion operations from scratch. And there will be a template, even though we'll get to the contentious opinion that Tim has about templates towards the end of this session. But there will be a template that is spread throughout the end, but we'll delve into the actual mentality and the philosophy behind how do you actually structure your Notion so it can work for you and not against you. Okay, I'll let Tim take it from here. Tim?
Sure, thanks very much. Thanks for having me, everyone. Yeah, I've spent most of the last decade helping people build out, we always talk about it as people's digital operating system. So it's kind of, for a lot of people, it's centered around Notion, but the digital tools you use are generally much broader than that. And they all need to work together, which is a big focus, particularly at the moment, with AI coming in and needing context for absolutely everything. Yeah. So, yeah, I might share my screen and get into it?
Sure, yeah.
Sure.
So Tim's just going to share his screen for now, run through the presentation that he's prepared, and then later on we'll be going into some question time from the public chat. So if you are in the public chat, feel free to jump in and say hi. Oh, great. We have some people tuning in from Sydney, Singapore, nice. Live from CDH and Melbourne. So that's really incredible, okay? So we'll go into how do you actually go about building a minimum viable operating system, Tim?
Yeah, so I think that's the key thing, is that for a lot of people, they start out and they end up, they dive in on something exciting like Notion, and they see the marketing, they see all the bells and whistles, especially at the moment with AI. Yeah. They get AI to build them something. And they end up in this kind of situation here, like with a bit of a Notion graveyard. They've got pieces of systems that they've tried to kind of roll out, templates that they've downloaded and tried to use, and then oftentimes they'll come find someone like me and say, I can see that there's potential here, but like we're stuck. What do we do? Yeah. And so, our thinking is that this is a systems problem, not necessarily a Notion problem. You can get yourself into that scenario with all kinds of tools. Notion just makes it really easy. And I think the trick with Notion is that it is Lego, right? It's digital blocks that you can use however you want. And that means you can build anything, but it also means that you can make a colossal mess, right?
Yeah,
and if
100%.
We're saying here, it's the superpower and the curse. And I think you know that, like, if you don't have any boundaries, if you don't have any structure, it's too open, you can just get nowhere fast. Yeah. So our focus really is to say, like, don't start with the tool. Don't start thinking, what can Notion do for me? That's actually the wrong question. And it's how the marketing kind of gets you in, like it can do this, it can do that. And so you're driven by that.
It's an important part of being able to sell software, to make it 100%. It's easy, it's pretty, it's simple to do, like anyone can do it, right? Yeah.
And it's amazing. I mean, I obviously spent most of my life in it, to be able to build your own tools, to be able to build whatever you want. It's just some structure around what you should be building is often the key part. So I think the real question is, like, what does the business need? And that is not a tech question. That's beforehand. That's maybe a whiteboard question. That's a sit around the table, talk to the team about what is the real problem, what's broken. So we are going to get into like a specific build, but I wanted to start by, I guess, giving people a bit of a framework for how should we think about this.
Yeah.
If you can hold yourself back from opening the laptop and looking at the tool, this is a conversation that you want to have kind of, with your team or with yourself if it's just you. And we have done this, I should say, with solopreneurs all the way through to sort of 400 or 500 person companies. So the model kind of spans.
Yeah.
It's more fun with friends. It's
sure.
a multiplayer game, I reckon. But you can do it on your own.
It's a great metaphor.
So the first question really is like, what is the outcome? Where do we want to get to? And a valid answer is not, we want a CRM. And that's often when we sit down with people, we have these kinds of conversations, and that'll be the first thing is, we want a CRM. And we just kind of then need to push and say, well, like, why do you want a CRM? What's in a CRM that you need? Because what the CRM means to you and what it means to me could be quite different things. So just to push that extra level and say, well, what's the actual result that you're looking for? And so it should be something like, I need to know where every client in our pipeline is and what's the next step. That is a valid need for the business. And we don't have that at the moment because it's in a spreadsheet or it's in Joe's head and he sits over there or... Okay, so that's the outcome that we're looking for. And then you can sort of flow into the next step, which is what are the components? So of that outcome that you need, like what are all the pieces? And that's not an easy question to answer necessarily. It's not I think one of the things about Notion is it gives everybody the ability to be a software developer. Yeah. Right? We can make our own tools. But we're not all trained as software developers.
Absolutely.
Right? Most of us never thought about the world like that before.
Yeah. And as someone with a background in sales, I had a lot of CRMs that I've used in the past, and I guess I just never really appreciated that as the frontline salesman, how much effort my manager and the other teams before me put into actually crafting the CRM for my particular use case.
Right. Yeah.
Whereas when you actually have to build it to a degree on your own, it becomes so much more complicated to actually think about the minutiae of how to actually, what happens when things need to trigger and talk to different systems, right?
Yeah, and Notion is wonderful if you want to do that work and if your business needs you to do that work. But if it doesn't, or you're really not up for that and you just need to get on with it, then you don't need the full ability of what Notion can offer you. It does have all this other stuff that you can do on the top of that, but you could probably just install a template and kind of roll with it. But I'm probably jumping the gun here. But
go ahead.
My issue with templates is that it removes the thinking piece, right? You don't really have to ask these questions. Someone else has answered these questions for you. Someone else has decided the outcome you're going to get is this. These are the components of it. This is how they work together. These are the workflows that this tool can do. And I think you lose a whole lot of the potential here.
Absolutely.
Because what gives you your edge in the market, what makes your business different to all the others is those unique elements.
The
thing you track that no one else does or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's so much like, in public speaking sometimes, I do some MC work and things like that, right? Sometimes the value of actually writing and preparing your speech beforehand is the actual writing of it. Like you might ad-lib on the night, you might say something different, but going through the work of actually having thought through what you're actually going to say gives you that structure on how to actually do it. Do you think that kind of mirrors
100%.
What that Notion work looks like?
Yeah. Absolutely. And the same is probably true with templates as with AI. You can get the AI to build you anything. It'll build it fast and it'll build it well, right? It's a better Notion builder than 99% of people who are trying to build in it. But there is a huge value in making the about what should be where and how it's going to work. You actually need to understand your own system and the way your own business or your own workflow and process works to then use Notion to scaffold it. So that's how I kind of think about it is your business has systems and workflows before technology, how these things get done. They're the way that you conceive of it all. And then we use Notion to scaffold and support. It sort of comes up from underneath, and helps you do it your way. As opposed to someone else's way. Right? So back to the questions. What are the components? Just identifying, for this idea of know where every client is in the pipeline and what needs to happen next, then the components there are clients, like, we're doing these bits of work for them. So there's kind of projects. What needs to happen next is a task. Tasks have statuses, they're assigned to people. They're all the pieces, that you have to use to build this system. You have to work out what they are.
Yeah.
Notion will be helpful and suggest properties to you.
Sure.
But they might just create noise. They might just actually get in the way. If you build a task system, and you put, priorities in there, because priority sounds good, but you guys don't use priorities, then it's just a piece of friction, right? People are trying to use it and they're like, oh, what do I put in this bit? And I'm not filling it out properly. And so, you need to think about those things, and you want to keep them simple.
Yeah.
And then the final one is like, how do they work together? So what is the workflow? How do we take these components and work with them in such a way as we get that outcome that we were looking for?
Yeah.
Now, those are pretty high level questions.
For sure.
And they don't translate directly into, here's my Notion kind of setup.
Yeah.
But if you ask those questions first, when you come to doing something like creating a task database, the answers will already be there. You won't need to go with the suggested options.
For sure. Yeah. I think that's definitely a problem that I've had with Notion, creating statuses that I don't end up using. And then someone asks me, what's that status for? And I'm just like, I don't know. It was just kind of there.
Seemed like a good idea.
Yeah, it seemed like a good idea. It sounded like a cool word to put as a status.
Yeah.
But what does it actually mean?
Yeah.
And then I can't answer that question. And I think when you can't answer that question, that's when it's probably time to get rid of that status, right?
Totally. Well, you don't want to make it in the first place.
Yeah, right.
And so it's one of the things we're always talking about with clients is we're not going to build a spaceship to start with.
Yeah.
We just build a skateboard, right?
Okay.
Build the thing that will just get you around the corner to the shop. That's all you need, because to get going, you just need as simple, minimum viable, as possible. And then it's really easy to add complexity in later. Notion's so modular, so easy to add a property. That's no problem.
Yeah.
It's hard to get rid of things.
Yeah, right.
You got a database with 1,000 tasks in it.
Yeah.
Has anyone ever used this property? And you have to try and work that out before you delete it, because we might lose some. You don't want that.
Yeah.
You just want it never got made.
Yeah. And with respect to the Lego metaphor, it's kind of like removing one of the early pieces when you've already built everything on top, right?
On top, right.
How do you have to remove everything on top?
Totally.
Find that little red piece.
Yeah.
You want to get rid of.
Yeah. But you can push the Lego metaphor too far, but I think that's a good use.
Okay, good.
I have pushed it too far.
Good to know.
Yeah. Okay. So those three questions are really the ones you always want to be coming back to. And I think, we've said it enough, but that is the frame that you always want to be kind of using and looking at. And if you find yourself a little bit stuck or unsure, or do we need this, you sort of come back to this, okay, what's the overall picture and vision? Okay, what are the pieces that we need to be able to do that? How is this workflow going to run? And then you can answer, do we need that piece or not?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay, so we've been doing this for a long time, and we've done it for all different kinds of businesses. One of the really fun bits of running a consulting agency like ours is the variation in clients. It's kind of the flavour. And pattern recognition, after a while, I realised, every business is different. And even you'll get two venture capital firms, and in some ways they're the same, but in other ways they're very different. It's the nuance and the texture and, the uniqueness of the humans who are involved. But the bones behind most organisations are kind of the same. A bunch of humans trying to get something from here to here.
Yeah.
You need these common ingredients.
Right.
And so in the quest of helping people get up and running with a minimum viable operating system, where do we start? Because with Notion you get just a blank page, or you get someone else's templates. I want to give people a template that's not a template. A template that's the starting block, right?
Yeah.
And you can
It's
use
almost like a
this
mental
to launch
template.
from.
A template. Yeah.
And I think in doing so, and we're going to kind of work through it, hopefully we kind of set up a framework that people can say, okay, we have that piece. It needs to look a little bit different. We're going to tweak what we've got here.
Sure.
So that's what we've got here. Here's my warning about templates, which we've already said.
Sure.
So we're going to call this the starting 6. These are all databases. So if you are unfamiliar with Notion, And the word databases that we've probably said 20 times already is making you roll back in your chair. Don't worry, databases are just smart lists, really. They're just big lists of, that can talk to each other. And so in Notion land, we build these databases as ways to store and structure information. And humans have this amazing ability to just do that without consciously thinking about it. You don't have to sort of stop and wonder about it. And if you look at people's spreadsheets, you'll see they've got 5 different types of information in the same spreadsheet, next to each other.
Sure.
It doesn't make any sense, like logically, structurally. But the human just goes, oh yeah, that's last year's budget and that's this year's and that's some stuff about expenses. And it's all just on the same page.
Yeah.
Databases don't work like that, right?
So true.
They are one database for one type of thing. And so that's what we've got here. We've got projects at the center because everything comes back to a project, and we'll talk about them individually. But yeah, companies, people, projects, knowledge, tasks and meetings. That's the pattern recognition bit. Pretty much everyone everywhere has some version of this.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's dive in and have a look at them. Now, this is presentations in Notion, so we're going to kind of explore the Notion-y bits as well as the conceptual pieces.
Sure.
But yeah, companies, this is the organisations you deal with, and you'll notice that these databases are in the generic form. So I haven't said clients or suppliers. It's just companies. And that's one of the things about the way these sort of structured databases work. You want to have as few as possible, but as many as you need, right? There's like a dance that goes on there.
It's such a tempting, it's such a difficult, such a delicate balance
It is.
to manage, right? Like we always say internally, it's always just about having just enough process. And it's just such a difficult thing to balance because sometimes in the quest to get more organized,
you over-engineer it.
Your instinct tells you that you should put more information and more quote-unquote effort in, which looks like more information, more data. But oftentimes it can muddle everything and get a bit. But then obviously on the other side of the coin, not putting enough information means that there's not enough context communicated. There's not enough for the system to work with, right? And then you also have the same problem. But like you said, it almost feels like when I imagine these two things, it almost feels like it'd be better to start from that simple end, which is, I guess, the thinking behind your philosophy, right? It's like starting from that simple end and then engineering up, right?
Exactly right. Yeah. So in this case, you've got a company's database that in theory is going to be able to hold all of the different companies, organizations, groups of people, if you like, that your entity is relating to. So it's probably going to have something like a type field in it to allow you to distinguish, this person's a client, this one's a supplier, whatever. But hopefully they're all going to be able to land in the same database. So there's just one source of truth for companies in the business.
Right.
You might find over time, hang on a second, we have this kind of company that we have a different sort of relationship with. We track completely different things. We use them in a different way to all the others. Okay, at that point, you might need a separate one, right? But don't start there. Start with just one until it's like these shackles are two, and then move.
Okay. Great.
So you can see here, companies have a name. You can store things like an industry or a location or a website, all the normal Notion stuff. And then you'll see these properties kind of throughout. These are the relations. So this is where one database can talk to another database. We're going to see projects and people in a second. So that's companies. People are the humans that are connected to the companies generally. Now, companies and people are one of those things that often when people first build something, they'll put them together. It's like, they're just all contacts, and they'll put them all on the same list. And then after a while, they'll realize, hang on a second, we've got, there's these four different people and they all work for the same company. We need to group them, we need to see them as connected to the company somehow. And so that's why they're in two separate, it's one of the reasons why they're in two separate databases. All those four people will relate to that company.
Right.
And so you'll be able to kind of look at that company and see all four of those people.
I see the Russian babushka doll starting to take place.
Exactly
you
right.
Click each company you go in. It's like,
that sort of interconnected web. And for a lot of people, if you've never thought like that before, like if you've mostly been in sort of document spreadsheets, folders kind of mentality, it takes a little while to get used to. But once you unlock it, then it becomes really
Yeah.
very powerful.
Yeah.
Anyway, so humans, people, things, email addresses, phone numbers, the company, their role, again, projects, meetings, etc. And I should say the same is true about what I said with companies for all the other databases. You might have people that you track a very particular workflow with. It's different from all the other kind of people that you work with. And so, you might create a different database for that purpose. But to start with, just the people database.
Yeah.
Projects really ends up being the spine. You'll see everything relates to projects. And when I say projects, in this case, I'm just talking in the most generic form. So you might call them engagements or campaigns or jobs or deals or, when we work with lawyers, they're called legal matters. It's just the container for the work. It's the grouping of the work, really. That's all a project is in this sense.
Yeah.
So this is something where you really need to think about, well, what is a project for us? What would a project be for CDH? Like this event would have been a kind of project, right?
Yeah.
I would have been in the people database.
You bet.
And so it might have dates, it might have statuses, it might have all of these kinds of things. So sometimes we end up with projects database that holds multiple types of projects. So you run a bunch of different kinds of events. You might be tempted to build 4 different events databases for your different kinds of events. But in the end, they're all just groupings of work that have people connected to them, dates, meetings, tasks. Okay, they should probably just all have been in the one projects database. So there's one source of truth for this information.
And then the same philosophy applies where it's if it's getting too much, there's too much difference between those certain events.
One project and the next.
And
that's
then
right.
maybe that's the time to move into separate databases.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so you guys have a stream of coaching founders and then you have events.
Yeah.
I would start by saying, they're just projects. They all just go in the project database, and this one is, coaching and this one is events. But pretty quickly you'll go, actually, for the coaching founders, we need all these other statuses and we need to look at this information in completely different ways. Okay, it's probably time that it comes out.
Because also the properties, I guess, sometimes when the properties themselves differ in terms of just what you need to see at a glance instead of going deep into the actual entry. I think that for us has been a key determinator in how we distinguish these projects from each other. Our events and our sort of corporate partnerships. And then how those things sort of work together. Sometimes they can become events, and sometimes the events can become the corporate partnerships. But for that purpose, we keep them reasonably separated because when we look at it at a glance, it's a different type of relationship that we have to it. I don't know. Would you say that's sort of how to look at it, or does it depend on?
Yeah, you need to be really clear about that for yourself internally first. And so, part of the experience of running the consulting practice over a long time is people will come to you and they don't actually have a technology problem. They've got a internal systems problem. Or a personnel. People are arguing about how all this really works.
Right.
No bit of software, much as I love Notion, is going to fix that.
Yeah.
So you have to be really clear about that. And then in terms of the architecture, a lot of the time you can have those things coexisting in the one database still. It's just that the view to look at partnerships only shows certain properties. And is set up in a particular way. So you create dashboards to that information to give you a good place to go in and sort of manage the workflow. But eventually you find if they're too different, that you need 2 different worlds for it. Let's just charge through because we're going to go and have a look at the model that I kind of built out for people to take away. Tasks, they're the actual actions. They're connected to the project. These are the granular to-dos. What once was a sticky note, these days is a task. Meetings, we all know what meetings are. But again, things like dates, attendees. You'll see this external attendees is a link to is a relation to the people database. So it's pulling so that there's only one Tim Jeffries in the CDH world, then that record in the people database, gets pulled in at this point. Connections to projects and tasks, etc. And then the final one is knowledge. And I think this one's kind of worth stopping and just labouring on for a second because this tends to be the catch-all for reference information. And what you find is that in a business, there's all kinds of unstructured information that doesn't have a home.
Yeah,
right? And
you
it,
bet, you bet.
Yeah, when you build these things, it's like it builds up in the corners, you know? Like if you're someone who's got things all over their desktop, you know, you're like, I don't really know where it's meant to go, so I just stuff it there. We use the knowledge database for that. In our business, it's actually called the filing cabinet. It's like that old school, like, in the filing
Chuck
cabinet.
it in, close the drawer.
But at least it's there, right?
Yeah.
Then it's inside a place where like it belongs.
Yeah.
And that's where you're going to find it. And you don't have things just sort of scattered throughout the workspace.
Sure.
So let's jump in and have a look at, I built a kind of version of this. Now, at the risk of repeating myself over and over again, this is the starting place.
Sure.
This, you know, if you pick this up and just tried to use it, it wouldn't be a good fit. And I feel like getting people to sign a waiver to say they won't do it. But what we've got here, if we have a look at these databases, is all of the databases just like all on the one page, right? It's very clean at the moment because it has nothing in it. But you can see there's those 6 databases that are going to hold all that information, and there's all these sort of structured connections between them. Now, Notion, one of the things it's really good at is you can store all the information in one place and in a not very pretty like version.
Yeah.
Where it's kind of warts and all, it's all there. And then you build these interfaces or dashboards, windows in, views, to be able to see it. And so I've created a bunch of generic views that we can have a look through to sort of see it in action.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
To an extent, I mean, it's just hard because as like a pretty early Notion user, I came in to a system that my team had already built for me in an extent.
Yeah.
So I don't really have much experience in like building something from scratch. I mean, I have been building my own personal Notion page, but as you can see, actually, on a related note, my GM always says, you can tell by what kind of Notion user a person is by looking at the state of their desk or their room.
Yeah, right.
And if you look at my room, it's not the most organized.
Right.
Which rightfully so, then my Notion page has just become pages, some databases that have been half abandoned. But it is like a great, like, you know, for me, it's still better than Google Docs, which I was using beforehand to store random information and random thoughts that I have or drafts of pieces that are unfinished. So at least it's all into one place, which is a good starting point, like you said.
Yeah.
But it just requires some organization. And maybe this sort of minimum viable system is like a place to start with that.
Yeah.
Images go on sound.
Oh,
Wait, what?
you can't hear us?
Not in there, not on mine.
No.
Oh, hey, can you guys hear us and see us? They can hear us and see us. Yeah, we're good, Tristan. All good, guys. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much, guys. Oh, wow. It's so good to get such lively responses. Sorry, we just had a quick snafu. A member of our team that's been watching in the space with us said that they couldn't hear us and see us, so we just had to make sure. But thank you for letting us know, guys. Yeah, Tim.
I think one of the things that's changed with AI, and we did pretty well to get this far into any kind of presentation and not really talk about AI, right?
Yeah.
But one of the big changes with AI is it needs that structure, or it thrives on that structure.
Yeah.
Like, it's pretty smart. It'll do a decent job of like looking at your messy dashboard and trying to work out what's there.
Sure.
But this structure, these databases, tell it unequivocally, these are companies, these are people, these are projects, these are tasks, right?
Yeah.
And when you set up your personal instructions to point to them, or you write skills that the custom agents use, you know, to drive, it won't hallucinate about which people your company knows, because it can literally look at the list.
Yeah.
So all of those things, they used to be important for companies to be able to scale. And that's what we did for a long time, was just, okay, your company's at this point where the organizational systems aren't coping anymore. It's time to improve them. And beforehand, I kind of used to say to people, look, don't worry about it. Like, if it's not a problem, it's not a problem. Don't. But now, you can't really leverage AI. You can't really build effective agents if there's not a structured system behind the scenes for them to sort of sit on top of and work on top of. And I actually had an experience this week where I was working with a professional services firm, about 70 people, and I was sitting around with this kind of pilot group, that we're doing sort of the first stage with, and we were doing this, and we were looking at projects, and we're talking about statuses, and one of the principals says, we don't really need statuses, we just kind of know where they're at. And it's obviously worked, right?
Yeah,
it's a very successful, firm. They're growing, and I was watching a couple of the staff members in the team, kind of like had a wry kind of look. I was like, this is a conversation that's happened before. And where it came to was he said, like, why would we start tracking the statuses now? And I said, well, how is the AI going to know whether, when you ask it to, I don't know, find a current, you'll do some reporting for you or whatever, whether things are finished or not? And he said, well, it's more complicated than that. Sometimes things finish and then they come back, or sometimes they go quiet for a while. And I was like, that's fine. Like, we have to build a system that accommodates all of that. Because your brain copes with it at the moment. And you have this sense internally that there's a shared understanding of that. The tool has to know about that now if the AI is going to be any good. It can't be a coworker because it's not in the room. It can't like read your face and go, actually that one's coming back, right? It doesn't know that stuff.
It's that like classic example of just like information that lives in your head, right? It's just like same thing with putting information like into CRMs. Like if you're calling 100 people a day and you're not writing down your notes, it's difficult to rely on just your brain to remember everything. And exactly. Now especially with agents and AI and obviously with LLMs and, talking about prompt engineering and how important context is. That's pretty much the same thing as like using Notion AI, right?
Yeah, well, Notion AI out of the box, this little guy down here, he doesn't actually know, he doesn't remember anything about what's in your workspace. In terms of if you want to think about how does he work, he doesn't remember those things, but the structured information is here for him to go and have a look at when the time comes. And so you can point it at, this is the context. This is your RAG database, like all of those things. And this is, I think, one of the things that makes Notion AI superior to a lot of other AI products is all of the context is already there. But what we're talking about today, this, structured databases, it's the prerequisite for that to work. Because if the information is just scattered all over the place in a whole series of pages inside pages, then it'll do an okay job, but it won't be amazing. And it can be amazing. I've seen firsthand. You've seen amazing,
I've seen firsthand.
So I have intentionally not developed this very far. All I've done is create linked views of those different databases.
Sure.
And if we, quickly create a new project, you can see it can have a title and it can be given a status and owner and a timeline and
nice and clean
show the meeting. Nice and clean, easy to start with. There shouldn't be anything here that's like, what is that? We don't need that. But you can see all the relations there. Now again, you could probably organise something really basic using this, but pretty quickly you'd be saying, okay, well, we don't call it in progress, we call it running or, whatever.
Sure.
So you need to start making it your own. You need to start doing the thinking about, okay, how are we going to... But those buckets are there. Those 6 projects, meetings, knowledge, tasks, companies and people are there. The other thing I've done, which is a key ingredient, I think, for any kind of Notion world, is to say the individual dashboard is like your window into that world. So these views are generic company-wide views. This is all projects. It's not filtered or sorted in any way. It just shows us everything. And you might, like for our business, for instance, our projects, we manage the lead flow in there. So we have an opportunity status as one of our status types. And so we have a view that is the leads view. And it's like, Kanban style view of all of the projects. We filter out everything that's already secured and we only show things that are in the opportunity statuses. So it's a projects database just like this, but it's been like molded around the way that we work. So this individual view, you'll see all of these are like filtered to me. So it will only show the tasks that are Tim's, and then when you're looking at it, it'll only show the tasks that are Darren's. Same with meetings, same with knowledge. Okay.
Really good.
So yeah, this is the piece that I want people, if they would like to take away and make their own, just so that you don't start with a blank slate.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I have a few. I know that there's a few. There's a founder in today who is going to start using Notion for the first time.
Okay.
They saw a presentation on Notion AI. Thought it was incredible.
All right.
And want to start using it. Yeah.
Righto.
Yeah. I think inadvertently CDH we've become quite the Notion ambassador just because of our adoption of Notion, basically just really in the last 6 months or so. But off the back of all the events that we're doing, we've also been exposed to technology so much that it's difficult not to get around it.
Yeah.
And now we just have our sort of holy trinity of Slack, Claude, and Notion.
Right.
That's basically our trio that we operate on.
Yeah, right.
And they all talk to each other, which is insane.
Yeah.
And just being able to, pick the brain of something that essentially lives in all of your systems.
Yeah.
Is an incredible thing.
That's right.
But obviously, it also leans on the inputs that you have put in over time, right?
Yeah,
So
it really does.
also
Yeah. And that's why this sort of foundational structure is essential.
Yeah.
It sort of sits underneath and enables everything else to be possible.
Yeah.
Actually, might just pull up a different image.
Sure. Yeah, how do you build
Stop sharing
something
this.
great without strong foundations, right?
Yeah, that's right. It's hang on one second. How am I going to find this thing?
And just in case you didn't see my message in the chat, if you do have a question for Tim, please feel free to drop it and mark it as a question, and we will try our best to get to it at the end of the session. I've seen there's been quite a few already.
Cool. I just want to show you this. Call it the SmoothOps blueprint. It's kind of our model for. That come up. It's our model for how we work with clients. Nope.
No, not yet.
I think it appeared on mine.
Yeah,
if that's
so
possible.
interesting.
I'll just share the whole screen and warts and all. Here we go.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, cool. So we have been doing the bit on the left, this foundational phase of thinking about the systems of the business. We didn't talk too much about this, but mapping the rest of your digital operating system. Most people are probably going to use some sort of accounting tool, and you're going to use email and calendaring, and sometimes people use a separate CRM. And
Sure.
So just mapping out what are, in my mind, I think about it as a literal map of all of the different bits of software, and then where do they connect? Where does a piece of information need to pass from the CRM into the Notion world to the project management system, then out to the accounting?
Yeah.
You want to build a map, a picture of that, and that then allows you to design that framework that I just gave people the kind of fundamentals of.
Yeah.
And then once you do that, then you can sort of build out those Notion databases, and then you get to go to the right-hand side of this kind of diagram, which is the fun bit, which is the bit where everyone wants to get straight away.
Yeah.
Before AI was so good, it was all about automations, right?
Yeah.
Everyone wanted to how do we get the robots to do this for us? So that piece on the right is really it's an ongoing thing forever. You're always saying, hey, we're going to, have a quarterly report, and we need to show up the data that's in our system this way. So you build a new interface.
Sure.
You just build a new dashboard and pull from those databases and show it up. Or we want this to start talking to Xero or whatever else, so that we don't have to manually copy and paste content from our invoicing.
Yeah.
We just press a button and it gets pushed across.
When you help companies come up with that foundational phase, do you recommend that they draw out a visual to sort of help them identify what should talk to what and how the phases should move across?
Yeah. So I would, in a past life, I would have built it manually in Miro.
Yeah. Right. Yes.
Little boxes with
Love a Miro
between them.
dashboard.
Yeah.
Love a
Just
Miro
because, in a more analog age, I used to use a whiteboard.
Sure.
And just everything was on a whiteboard, just to get that bigger overall picture.
Yeah,
that when you dive deep into the formulas in the database, you've got like context, kind of where you are.
something to fall back on.
So yeah, I think that's really important, and it's really important for shared understanding across the team, so that everybody goes, oh, okay, yep, that's how the workflow is meant to happen. Different learning styles, different brains kind of need different things, but yeah, I think drawing it out can be really helpful.
Yeah.
And of course, these days you can just blurt it all out to AI and then say, can you turn that into a graphic for me? And then 100%. It'll do a decent job. And then you spend 3 hours trying to get that last little line right. But other than that...
One of the T's is like backwards. It's like, can you make that T straight? And then like, it'll change that T straight, but then everything else is wonky.
Don't talk to me about it. It was last night.
Yeah, literally.
The other things on this chart are things like automations and AI. You can't do any of that without having the foundational piece.
Sure.
You're just supercharging chaos, right? The automations will make it go faster, but it'll just be more mess than was there before. And AI is the same. If it doesn't have the right context or it doesn't know, the right spot to put it in, then you can build these incredible custom agents, but where do they, get their info and put their info? So
sure.
Yeah, this is the way we really think about the overarching piece, and that foundational bit is heavy lifting. It's not sexy. It's for most people, it's not really that fun. It's a sick kind of human that loves doing that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm one of them. Yeah. But it is what you build on forever afterwards, because that piece doesn't actually change that much for a business. Maybe you'll expand and you'll add
like a high leverage activity to do for your business, right?
Yeah, but it hurts.
Of course.
There's a certain amount of pain in doing it. And to be honest, I kind of like screen clients to make sure that they're really up for that, because that is grueling, that bit of work.
Yeah. It also forces you to think so deeply about your own operations and your systems, whereas, like you said, sometimes things are just so intuitive to people.
Yeah.
And you just sort of remember and what's up, and then you just sort of like do things, things without documenting your process. Yeah. But how do you achieve refinement without documentation of process, right?
Totally.
Like that's exactly how you do it, is by documenting it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like for founders specifically, you kind of don't need to do too much of this in the early days. You just need to do the work, right? You just need to create a problem for yourself. You want your sales to be so good that you have to sort this stuff out.
Yeah.
So a bit back to, you don't want to over-engineer it early, but you can lay foundational pieces that when you bring, your third or fourth or fifth hire in, it actually makes sense to them what you've got. I found teams of 2 or 3, it's like the knowledge is contained in the space in between them. They have found a way to work together because they know each other and trust each other so much that they can cope. Yeah. But it doesn't scale beyond that. And there's no version of AI there, right? The robot is not in the triangle. It can't do that. So yes, just to reiterate, the most valuable thing are those questions. If you can train yourself to ask those questions when you bump into the mess, you'll find the answers yourself. This is a classic, happens in every job that we do, happens every time people try and sort these things out, is you have this kind of experience of like, at first it's sort of a little bit fun and exciting because you're getting somewhere and you're making progress and whatever, and then you kind of get into the messy middle and it feels terrible and you think, this sucks, it doesn't work, I hate this, that Tim Guy was a total idiot. Which may be true, but push through, because when you come out the other side, you get that sort of clarity that allows you to really build on it.
Yeah.
If you this is what we've seen for a long time now. If you push through, it's worth it. It just hurts.
Yeah. Like learning so many things. Yeah.
So don't skip the hard bit. Push through. More of the same. I think I just wanted to say about AI. Before we open up for questions.
It'd be pretty good to loop into our 2 first questions.
Oh, sure.
So Scott and Alex both asked, basically, how useful are Notion agents? Can they do more than the garden variety things that Notion AI can do? And can agents go in Notion and make sense of the structure and structure it in a more orderly way? Mm-hmm. I don't know if that relates to what you were going to cover, but...
Yeah. The first one definitely does. Maybe we'll start with the second one.
Yeah.
Yes. You can absolutely use Notion AI to help you organise your setup.
Sure.
You just need to be the one that's doing the driving. So don't let the AI run the process, you run the process and then get it to do the heavy lifting.
Sure.
So for instance, what I mean by that is you might point it at a team space that's just got pages and pages and pages and say, help me understand what information is in here. What is the structure of all of this? And answer those 3 questions. It's always about those 3 questions. Like, what is the problem that we're trying to solve? Okay, great. We've been trying to solve it here in this messy bit of our Notion workspace. AI is really good at canvassing and parsing all of that info and then coming back to you and saying, so it seems like you're trying to do this and you've got all these bits of information. And then what it's also really good at is once you make some decisions about what you want, how you want to restructure that info, it can help you build the place where it's going to land, the databases where it's going to end up that are structured. But again, I'd encourage you to do the thinking about like, what should the properties be? Because it'll just go rogue and be helpful. And then it can literally pick those pieces up and move them for you.
Right.
It's very functional inside of Notion. So yeah, I'm kind of at the point where I don't really do much building anymore. I spend most of my day with sort of 5 or 6 tabs open, and they're all different conversations with AI about, okay, the next bit of this, project is this, the next bit is this.
Yeah, wow.
So I would absolutely use the tool to help you go through this process. It's really just about being the one who's running the show, right? Making those decisions and being really clear about it. And then the other thing to say is that you can actually get the AI to do an incredible job of documenting it for you.
Yes.
So this is something that I preached previously but never practiced was, like write the SOPs, get the frameworks out of your head. But now, I mean, if you took this conversation, the transcript of this conversation, you could like turn all of this into a document that explains it all.
Yeah,
that
it would reasonably infer, basically, and draw conclusions based on what we've said.
Yeah.
Trace back the logic, basically. Yeah.
So powerful.
So powerful.
That. Yeah. The first question.
Yeah, the first question.
Can it do more?
Yeah, I mean, I think it basically just relates to this point of like, what is actually the difference between like Notion AI and agents? I mean, obviously, there's been a lot of distinctions. Like, I think a lot of people's loose understanding is agents have sort of more autonomy in that sense.
Yep.
And Notion AI operates more like an LLM to a degree. So I don't know. What's your take on what the actual difference is between AI and agents?
I'm searching for. I just wrote a piece about this.
Oh,
actually.
wow. Amazing.
So, yeah, cool. Let me share this. I think it's been a bit confusing for all of us.
For sure.
Everyone's learning
Absolutely.
a lot all at the same time.
Yeah.
And so it's messy. But the way we have come to understand sort of the broader picture of Notion AI is that it's made up of 3 layers. The top layer are agents, in the broadest terms. So Nosy down here in the corner is your personal agent.
Right.
And then custom agents are on the same level, right? And they're the ones that kind of live over here in the sidebar in agents, and they do things like capture your email or run automated processes or whatever. So that framework says agents are the orchestration level. They don't have all the instructions. They're not remembering everything. They don't do the whole job. All they do is run sets of instructions effectively, whether that's you chatting with it directly, whether that's the instructions you give to the custom agent itself.
Sure.
And then you have this layer that Notion is starting to build tooling for. You would have heard a lot about it in the Claude world, skills. I was calling them playbooks for the first little while because I had to make up a name. So that
This is great relevance to another question we had, which is
right.
how can you leverage Claude skills in Notion AI?
Oh, cool. Yeah. Well, we can speak to that too. But so the skills layer, these are Notion pages. So all they are is Notion pages with a set of instructions that the AI goes, okay, cool. I need to sync your calendar. Okay, step 1, do this. Step 2, do that. And I'll show you some examples in a second of like the instructions for skills. And so it runs.
Skills basically are just like a markdown, drop-down PDF with specific instructions.
SOP for an agent.
Yeah, right.
Just like please do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Start, finish, done. Okay, now I'm back.
Yeah.
So personal agent, like this guy here, all day, every day, he's running skills for me. And our business has about 40 different skills that we built out, everything from send this person the first lead follow-up from the pipeline to help us write some client documentation to whatever, prep for this roadmap call. All of those things we've built as skills. So we've thought enough about what our process and our system is that we've then been able to build some instructions for the AI so that it can do a job and help us.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the third layer down, which I think is going to become increasingly important, are what we're calling guides. They'll probably get a better name at some point, but they're reference pieces of information.
Oh, okay.
So they're the things that are in your company wiki, like this is our voice and style guide, or this is the rubric that we use to determine whether this person is going to be a good fit for us.
Right.
This is our ICP, or any of those like canonical pieces of knowledge that your business has. AI needs those, desperately needs those.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so, like, when I'm asking AI, hey, can you respond to this lead? We've got this little piece of information. Can you help us formulate a response? It reads the voice and style guide. It reads our internal doc about who our clients are, why they buy, and how they think about the world. Like, it reads all our internal knowledge so that it sounds good, but it is us. It is our messaging. It sounds just like the way we think about it. And it does it because of that structure.
Okay.
So yeah.
So would it be sort of similar to like how, I guess, like in a project on like Claude, you can just drop in files to provide it context?
Yes.
Would that be sort of similar to what guides refers to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except the problem is in Claude, you have to go and drop it in every time.
Okay, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'll show you one here. I don't think I'm going to give away any important insider knowledge. This is the lead follow-up, right? So if anyone reaches out to us, you're going to get a response that it starts here. And so this is the skill.
Yeah.
So you can see, like I wrote it, and there's a description about what it is. There's ways that you can trigger it with the personal agent to say, hey, can you do this? Without having to mention it directly. But there's a whole set of instructions. It's got a scope. It's got input sources. So where do you pull your information to be able to run your process from? Then there's a whole lot of steps. Step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, wow.
This is your output. And then these are the approval gates where a human has to intervene.
Yeah.
Here's an example, right? It's a whole set of instructions.
Really comprehensive.
AI wrote the instructions.
Right.
There's a skill to write skills.
Sure.
Of course there is, right? It has to be. But if you have a look in here, what matters is when it comes to saying, where am I going to get the information to be able to do this job that they're asking me to do?
Sure.
It's pulling the voice and style guide, and it's pulling the service language, how we talk about SmoothOps, and who our clients are, and what our sales process it is.
Right.
So that's essential.
Wow.
Otherwise, it's just going to give you random AI slop.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's just going to make something up.
Yeah.
Like, oh, Tim seems like a good guy. He'd say this. Whereas this gives it like very solid direction. So when armed with that model, just going back to that very first question, you can get agents, both kinds, the personal kind and the custom kind, to do a whole lot of the work.
Sure.
For you, or with you. With you is the thing.
With you.
Because I'm not sending those emails out like just off you go agent and I'm sitting on a beach in the Bahamas. Like it writes version 1.
Of course.
We as a team kind of work together to say, these are pretty good. It's 90% of the way there. And then a person can respond to it. So it feels like there's maybe 3 or 4 times the manpower because the agent's doing that first big lift.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And we have them rolled out in sales and delivery and ops and, all kinds of areas of the business.
Yeah. We had a question from Kate, basically asking, what would you recommend if you've already got stuff set up and you're not starting from scratch? So basically, like, how do you clean up the mess, basically?
Yeah.
Like, is it just an issue of, I don't know, sometimes my instinct goes to, like, just toss it all out and start a new one. But sometimes that's
a little bit
not
personality.
A little bit of that. But
I think you need to do an audit of what you have.
Right.
Yeah. None of the answers to these questions are very fun. But
I get it.
It's the groundwork. Yeah. So you need to understand what's there. And the key thing is the databases, because often what we'll find, like because we do a lot of audits for people, you dig in and you find, oh, they have 6 task databases, right? They're like scattered all throughout, and there's just no way that you can like pull it all together without understanding that. So the first step is an audit to get a really clear picture of exactly what's there. And then you do that design piece, that clear thinking about what are the outcome that we want, what are the components for it, how they're all going to work together. And then you say, okay, should we just, do we retrofit? Do we renovate, or do we demolish and start again? At that point, the decision becomes pretty clear.
Sure.
So audit, design, and then make a call one way or the other.
Yeah.
I mean, you never really throw it all out. It's all so like composable in blocks. You just, you might take those 6 task databases and push all the entries in all 6 of them into the one task database.
Yeah. But I mean, I got Notion AI to clean up some stuff for me the other day.
Yeah.
Did a pretty good job.
Yeah.
I actually
Absolutely.
wonder, how does it feel sometimes to have such expertise in Notion back when it was not so much AI supported?
Yeah.
And now seeing how sort of like quote unquote easy it is for AI to come in. Like how does that sort of, I don't know, do you feel like you have more an advantage? Just because
massively.
You have like stronger fundamentals, like sort of like software engineers using vibe coding.
We have
right?
taste, right? We have design, we have decision making, we have that sort of maturity. So, because the AI just completely left to its own devices will, it'll do a really great job of generically what it thinks you might want, but it doesn't really understand. But it feels like we've got a sort of a cheat code now.
That's so good.
Because we can do it a lot faster. And for me, like the reason I do this is because it empowers people, empowers their businesses. Lots of our clients we have had really long relationships with, but they'll like call me and be like, look at this thing we made. That's what the best thing about Notion is. It's an empowerment tool. And so you got someone who's a great lawyer running a good firm, but like snowed with paperwork or whatever, and then you help them build this system that they love, that they own, and they're kind of off doing it for themselves. To be able to give them the utility of not just Notion, but now AI as well. Yeah. And the actual realised promise of AI agents, that's really fun. Yeah. It's been great.
Seems really fun. We just have, I'll just go with probably just one last question, which is basically, I think Alex was basically alluding to like, what sort of prompting have you found to be the most useful with it? Like I sort of have a loose idea of my own stance on prompting. Yeah, with agents, but I mean, it's sort of it's quite similar to LLM prompting, right? Like as long as it's clear, structured, and the information is sort of in the right place. That's sort of how I like to approach it. But what's your sort of take on what sort of like really good, what's an example of like what makes up a really good prompt when it comes to using Notion agents?
It is an LLM. Like it's picking from 5 or 6 different models, but you are talking to an LLM. I have had great success like building myself a buddy, a co-worker. It really feels like my AI is called Al, because when AI first came out, I thought everyone was writing about some guy called Al. Right. And setting up the personal instructions is the absolute critical piece. Yeah. Actually, when we send people the link to the bigger template, I'll give you a skill that I've made that's also a template that people can use to help roll out their instructions. Because if you don't have your Notion instructions set up, you're only getting 20% of the value. So that is a part of the answer to this question, because those custom instructions, the model loads every time before every chat. And so it's a setup for your prompt. Right. It actually means that you have to do a lot less in your prompting because you have told it already, hey, this is how I want you to think about the world. Wow. This is where all my data is.
It's pretty much like the using skills to build skills thing.
It is. And maybe there's a whole nother session in that stuff.
Sure.
But what that means then is that it's got the guardrails. This is how you're meant to operate. And then you can just talk to it.
Yeah.
So I use Super Whisper,
Okay.
which is like I hit a shortcut on the keyboard and then I just speak to the
Yeah,
laptop.
wow.
And I don't edit anything. it just gets in my instructions. It says I use a voice to text thing, and I see the AI all the time saying stupid voice to text. I know what it's really saying, but yeah, it means that then I can just conversationally discuss things with it, and because the prompting is looked after by those custom instructions, then I don't need to do all the setup.
Yeah, right.
The only thing probably I'd add to that is that there are some pretty smart advanced prompting techniques that most people wouldn't normally go about using. But when you build skills, you really want to take advantage of those. So they might be things like giving the LLM a way to cross-reference or double-check its own work, or go back through and say, is all this coherent and consistent? And there's a whole bunch of like pretty nerdy ways of prompting that you can bring in there. But the day-to-day conversation with the LLM, I find you can be really conversational. And then any process that you've got should be a skill. And the skills you build a whole lot of smarts into, so that you don't have to be a rocket scientist to run them. And neither does your team.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
So someone builds the skill, it works really well, like it's tested and it's running, and then anyone in the team can use it, and you can consistently, reliably scale AI to the whole company.
Yeah. Or sometimes, like when you're using LLMs just purely, you can get into this loop of having to rebuild that context window every single
Every
time.
time,
You're just starting a new chat. Start a new chat, new thing, and you're just like, it doesn't need this old context.
No.
So you're saying that the skill needs to be general enough and focused on perhaps focused on the output that you're trying to get.
Needs to define
rather than
the whole thing.
Right.
Yeah. The build a skill has a bunch of requirements, and if what you're asking it to do, it'll say this is not fit for a skill. One maybe funny little story to finish off. My kids, well, my whole family and me at the moment are obsessed with Pokemon Go. I played it 10 years ago, and we're all back. We've got nephews and nieces that live around the corner, and it's a lot of fun. My Notion AI knows a lot about Pokemon Go, but it writes itself handoff notes.
Wow.
So this has been one of the things that has been really useful, because it's Notion, right, and it can store anything. I just say, I'll have the chat, and then I'll say, can you update the handoff notes? And it will rewrite this Notion page that tells it, what candies we're trying to get to capture this thing, or this race, or, any of that sort of stuff.
Awesome.
I mean, it's a funny example, but it's useful anywhere. If you're working on a project and you're using the AI to do it, you can take the context of that chat and have the AI update your documentation or your project, or whatever it is, and kind of keep this ongoing conversation that spans multiple chats, and builds that sort of context window. So really handy to use like that.
Incredible. Yeah. Definitely am excited for the mentoring that we have coming up in person. So just for everyone online to know who's based in Melbourne, typically at the end of our Lunch and Learn sessions, we do offer some personalised mentoring with our guests in-house at CDH. But in order to be invited, you need to be a Clubhouse member, or for this month only, we're also opening up that invite to our free community for CDH Next. So if you are interested in some mentoring, you might have already seen it in your Luma inboxes that we do have a legal mentoring series coming up next week with Claire Thompson from HSK Kramer, one of the largest law firms in Australia. But that will be it for us today, guys. Coming up on CDH, we do have some really cool events. If you are based in Melbourne, we do have a event coming up next week, Singapore Meets Melbourne, where we have some really exciting founders coming in from Singapore to give some quick 2-minute pitches about what they're working on. Singapore obviously being a hotbed of tech in Asia, so really excited to hear about the innovations coming from there. So if you'd like to network with some international people in the startup community, feel free to come around to that. But if not, guys, at the conclusion of this session, we'll have recorded everything. We'll send out the materials that Tim has mentioned. And thank you so much for your time, guys. Okay, thank you.
Cheers.
See ya.
Bye.